Welcome to the U.S. National Grid. This program will include a short introduction to the USNG, but mainly focuses on how 911 dispatchers and emergency personnel can use USNG to respond more quickly to the more than 30% of 911 calls that don't give us an address. My name is BJ Kolstead. I come from Lake County, Minnesota, where I spent 12 years as the Emergency Management Director, 6 years on their ambulance service, and 18 years on the Sheriff's Search and Rescue Squad. So I have some familiarity with emergency response in off-road areas. Responders have the same problem everywhere. This is how it went before we started using USNG. It took us 3 hours to locate this person so he could be rescued. We needed a way to determine and communicate location in remote and wilderness areas. It turns out there already is a national and state standard system for land-based search and rescue. USNG is required by FEMA for all federal agencies responding to emergencies and disasters, and it's encouraged for all local agencies as well. Unlike the curved lines of latitude and longitude, it uses a simple grid system with units of meters and kilometers. Let's look at how USNG works. It divides the entire nation and most of the world into grid zones with numbers that increase as you go to the east and letters that increase as you go to the north. You can see that most of Minnesota, Iowa, and western Wisconsin is in the grid zone of 15T. These large grid zones are then divided into grid squares of 100 kilometers, or about 62 miles on a side, and they're designated by 2 letters, such as XN in Lake County, where I live. These grid squares are then further divided into 10-kilometer sections and can be made into map pages and printed as map books for emergency responders in the field, showing both street view or topo map on one side and an aerial view or satellite of the same area on facing pages, such as this one in Bayfield County, Wisconsin. So how do we get this information to the recreating public? Emergency location markers were developed by Shared Geo, a nonprofit whose mission is to provide geographic information for the public good. These ELMs define a location within 10 meters or about 30 feet, and so they can improve response times to off-road incidents as well as educating the public. The ELMs include the grid zone of 15T in this case, the 100-kilometer grid square of XM, and the coordinates in the white box below. Since Bayfield County, Wisconsin is mostly within the grid square of 15TXM, only the 8-digit coordinates in the box below are normally needed to give the location. Sawyer County, Wisconsin, to the south, is mostly in the grid zone of 15TXL. So the first 4 digits in the white box read east, and the last 4 digits read north on a map of the grid square. It's just like we learned in elementary school, reading a graph first to the right or east, and then going up to the north. It helps if responders understand the scale of these coordinates. The first 2 digits, 61 and 71, measure kilometers east and north in the grid square. The third digit measures 100 meters, or about 100 yards, or the length of a football field. The last digit measures 10 meters, or about a first down. So for responders traveling in the woods watching their GPSs, if the easting number changes from 6110 to 6111, you've made a first down heading east. If the northing number changes from 7148 to 7158, you've traveled the length of a football field going north. These ELMs have already been installed in over 5,000 locations in the U.S., including several states, national parks, waterways, at the Kennedy Space Center, and in several urban areas. They've already made a difference in response times for medical emergencies and people who become lost. When we make paper maps, we should include grid lines, and kilometer numbers along the edges to help users know their location as they travel, especially if they don't have a GPS or a smartphone. USGS and U.S. Forest Service topo maps already include this grid information, and we should too. In addition to ELMs and maps, trailhead signs can be posted to encourage our visitors to download 2 apps. The mobile ELM sign, which is from an app called USNG app, will change the numbers on the sign on their phone as they travel. With the Avenza app, they can download georeferenced maps that show a dot on the map that moves as they travel. It's important for them to know that once downloaded, these apps do not need cell service to work because the coordinates come from satellites, not from cell towers. So travelers can now give their USNG location to 911 using ELM signs, a USNG phone app, an Avenza map on their phone, or paper maps. And you can learn more about all of these options at usngcenter.org. Now let's find out how dispatchers and responders can use these coordinates to help locate callers who don't know where they are. Responder guidelines have been printed and are available to do just that, but we'll go through the instructions here. Many CAD systems do not yet incorporate USNG into their location software, but the website GIS Surfer does, and so it should be customized and bookmarked for your agency's use. Once you zoom into your area on the map, you'll be able to make a special bookmark that comes up as a default on your computers when you click on this website. You zoom into your area, then use the menu to turn on the national grid, and then you select a base map that you like to have as a default. Whatever base map you choose will show the map name, they'll show a menu, and they'll show the USNG coordinates in the lower right. Click on Menu to get a link to this map, and then save it as a bookmarked site on your dispatch computer, on your rescuer laptops, and on your cell phones. Here's an example of a GIS Surfer bookmark page that I made for Sawyer County, Wisconsin. It's centered on the Sheriff's Office in Hayward. When you zoom in, you'll notice that Sawyer County is partly in grid zone 15TXM north of Hayward, and also in 15TXL south of Hayward. It's good to know your grid square, but it won't make any difference in how the system works, since the grid square is listed on each ELM and comes up automatically on the website. When a caller gives either an address or USNG coordinate, you can click on Menu, Search, to mark their location on the map. It looks like this. You can enter either a town or an address, or you can put in the ELM coordinates, the USNG coordinates that they give you, and then click to search and mark, and it will zoom in to their location. You can change the base map if you want. For example, if you want to see a satellite view, it'll show the same site in satellite view so you can look at vegetation and topography, etc. Then you can zoom in for a closer look, and you can even share this live map with your responders in the field, or the caller, by clicking on Menu, get a link to this map. Copy the link and email it to your responders in the field, and they will open the same view on their laptops or their phones. It will look just like yours did. You can see the scale on the bottom of the screen and coordinates on the lower right. You can click Menu, My Location, to see where you are on the same map in the field, and therefore you can see where you are and where you need to go. Let's see an example of how this might work on a call from an injured biker on the Campbell Bike Trail who calls in from an ELM sign. You're going to put the coordinates into the menu search box, click on Search and Mark, and it will zoom to show their location. You can see it's near the county line between Bayfield and Sawyer counties. If you zoom in more, you can see they're about 1 kilometer west of Telmark Road. maybe you can come in from the trails to the north. If you switch the base map to satellite view, you can see Telemark Road changes into Spider Lake Fire Lane, and the north road is called Timber Trail. And you can see that there's a closer trail on the west side and even a restored gravel pit where you might be able to land a medical helicopter. What if you don't have internet in the field? If you've preloaded your local maps in Avenza, you can look at your maps on your cell phone, or you could look at the same spot in your printed 10-kilometer paper map books. What if the caller gives coordinates in other than USNG from a GPS? Any of these coordinates formats or an address can be entered into GIS Surfer. All of these addresses show exactly the same location. If you're entering lat long, do not include the units, those superscript numbers of degrees, minutes, or seconds, but do include any decimals in decimal minutes and the negative sign in front of the west longitude. Otherwise, you'll end up in Asia, and you'll probably figure that out. Finally, you can convert these coordinates to any other format by right-clicking on any location on the screen. For example, most aerial resources use degrees, decimal minutes as a default, so you can convert the coordinates from USNG to degrees, decimal minutes instantly by right-clicking. If you're familiar with UTM, you can easily convert to USNG in your head. If you're on the same grid square, just remove the last digit because that's a 1 meter digit and we don't need to be within 1 meter of someone to find them. So we use just the previous 4 digits, easting and northing, to give us a 10-meter precision or accuracy. If you're familiar with Military Grid Reference System, or MGRS, you can see it's written the same as USNG except without the spaces. Responders should bookmark the GIS Surfer on their phones as well, or their other devices. It'll show the same menu and the base maps and the center USNG coordinates. The only thing that the cell phone won't do is right-click. So to right-click, if you want to convert the coordinates, you just touch the left side bracket. That'll give you a crosshair. You drag the crosshair to where you want it and click on it, and it will give you all those coordinates. Click on the arrow again to remove the crosshairs. Responders should also download a few apps on their phone. The first one is the mobile ELM map that we talked about from USNG app. You can download it from your app store on an Android and some iPhones. If your iPhone won't download it, you can get it off the website usngapp.org directly and bookmark it on your phone. Download Avenza maps too on your phone so that you can open geo-referenced maps. And on those maps, you can see your location and your coordinates. And using the pin on the bottom, you can drop in points and label them. For example, you can see on the right where we are. You can see where we're going to go stage or meet because we know that the patient is just southeast of us there. The My USNG app shows not only your coordinates and a map, but you can also enter your destination coordinates to see where you are and where you want to stage or respond. And you can zoom in and out to either location. The Responder Guidelines handout gives instructions for all the steps we've shown here. You can request it from an email on the last slide. It shows you how to download GIS Surfer, bookmark your map, search and mark a location, convert the coordinates, and send the map link to your responders in the field. In summary, there are many cases where USNG has already contributed to improved rescue responses, and you might even have some of your own stories. There's no doubt that learning to use USNG can save time and lives. It does make a difference, and it's worth it. Thanks for your time and your life-saving efforts. You're welcome to email or call me with your comments, questions, or to request a copy of the Responder Guidelines for USNG. Take care out there. We want you to come home.